Captain Taekwon stood on the observation deck of the Threshold station and watched the stars. He had been in space for 15 years, but the view never got old. Behind him, the diplomatic meeting was going badly. He could hear the raised voices even through the thick walls. "They're not going to agree," Lieutenant Hana Kim said, walking up beside him. She carried a data pad and looked tired. "Ambassador Nari says the Kryn want complete control of our trade routes." Tae nodded slowly. He had expected this. The Galactic Union had 47 member species, and humans were the newcomers. Everyone wanted to test them. Everyone wanted to see if humanity would bend. "What does Admiral Wu say?" Tae asked. "He says we follow Earth's orders. No surrender. No giving up our rights." Hana looked at her data pad. "The Kryn are getting angry. Their overlord Thex is talking about honor challenges now." Tae had learned about honor challenges during his briefings. In the Galactic Union, wars were not like Earth wars. When two species disagreed, they held ceremonial battles. Each side sent 5,000 warriors to a chosen planet. They fought until one side surrendered. Then everyone went home. It was civilized. It was controlled. It had been this way for 12,000 years. The problem was that humans had never fought that way. The door opened and Ambassador Nari Sung walked out. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had been a soldier once before becoming a diplomat. Tae respected her. "They've issued the challenge," Nari said. "Overlord Thex says we are cowards if we refuse. He says the Kryn Empire will show us our place." "What did you tell him?" Hana asked. "I told him we accept." Nari smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. "I also told him we'll send our response within 24 hours. Admiral Wu is already preparing the fleet." Tae felt something cold in his stomach. Not fear exactly, more like the feeling before a storm. "Ma'am, does the Kryn Empire understand what they're asking for?" "No," Nari said simply. "They think we're primitives. They looked at our technology and saw we're only slightly ahead of them. They looked at our world and saw we've only just reached the stars. They think this will be easy." "Should we warn them?" Hana asked. Nari shook her head. "I tried. Overlord Thex called me a coward. He says Kryn warriors are the finest in this sector. He says humans will learn respect." Tae looked back at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Kryn Empire was preparing for a traditional war. They would gather 5,000 of their best warriors. They would practice their battle cries and sharpen their weapons. They would prepare for glorious single combat, and humanity would show them something different. 3 days later, Tae stood on the bridge of the military transport ship Incheon. Around him, the fleet was taking shape. He counted 20 transport ships, 15 escort frigates, and 3 orbital support cruisers. Admiral Wu Dai commanded from the flagship Seoul. "This is a lot of ships for 5,000 warriors," Hana said. She was working at the tactical station reviewing deployment plans. Tae smiled. "Read the deployment roster." Hana pulled up the file. Her eyes went wide. 50,000? We're sending 50,000 soldiers. "It's a limited expeditionary force," Tae said. 1 division with full support elements. "But the rules say 5,000 per side. The rules say each side sends their chosen force to the combat planet. We chose to send more." Tae pulled up his own data screen. "Besides, the Kryn can send more too if they want. It's only fair. The Kryn did send more." When both fleets arrived at the designated combat world, a rocky planet called Designation 773, the Kryn had matched human numbers. 50,000 Kryn warriors filled their transport ships. Observers from the Galactic Union watched from orbital platforms. This was the biggest honor battle in centuries. Species across the galaxy placed bets. Most bet on the Kryn. The humans were unknown. The Kryn were proven warriors. Tae stood in the landing craft with his company. 200 soldiers sat in rows checking their equipment. They were quiet and professional. No one shouted battle cries. No one boasted about glory. "Listen up," Tae said over the company radio. "This is a standard planetary deployment. We land. We establish our perimeter. We wait for orders. Rules of engagement are standard. Fire only when fired upon. Protect civilians if any are present. Follow your squad leaders. Stay in communication. Any questions?" No one had questions. These were professional soldiers. They had trained for years. They knew their jobs. The landing was smooth. Tae's company secured landing zone blue without incident. Around them, the rest of the division landed in perfect order. Engineers set up communication arrays. Logistics teams established supply depots. Medical teams prepared field hospitals. Colonel Sora Min commanded the logistics operations. She was a thin woman with quick hands and a mind like a calculator. Within 6 hours of landing, she had supply lines running to every unit. Ammunition, food, water, medical supplies, spare parts, fuel. Everything was tracked. Everything was organized. We have supplies for 6 months of continuous operations, Sora reported to Admiral Wu. If we need to extend, I can request resupply from Earth. Admiral Wu nodded. The Kryn are setting up their camp 10 kilometers north. Their scouts have been probing our perimeter. What are they doing? Nari asked. The ambassador had insisted on coming to the surface to observe. Mostly looking confused, Admiral Wu said. He pulled up drone footage on the command screen. The Kryn camp was chaotic. Warriors moved in groups with no clear organization. Leaders shouted orders that seemed to contradict each other. There were no defensive positions, no organized supply system, just thousands of warriors preparing for battle. They're brave, Tay said, watching the footage. Look at how they move. No fear. Bravery without discipline is just chaos, Admiral Wu said. Hana, what's our intelligence assessment? Lieutenant Hana Kim had been analyzing Kryn communications. They're planning a mass assault at dawn tomorrow. Overlord Thex wants to overwhelm our positions with numbers and fighting spirit. He's telling his warriors that humans are weak, that we hide behind technology, that we have no honor. Do they know about our artillery? Tay asked. They've seen the guns, but I don't think they understand what they do, Hana said. Their intelligence reports describe them as large metal tubes. They think they're some kind of ceremonial weapon. Admiral Wu stood up. Then tomorrow morning, the Kryn Empire will learn what a human professional army truly is. All units prepare defensive positions. I want firing lanes cleared, artillery pre-plotted, and air support on standby. This is not a duel. This is not a game. This is war, and we will fight it our way. Tay returned to his company and gave orders. The soldiers dug fighting positions. They set up machine gun nests with overlapping fields of fire. They placed mines in likely approach routes. They established communication checks every 30 minutes. They prepared like professionals. As the sun set over designation 773, Sergeant Kai Lee walked along the company line, checking each position. He was a veteran with 12 years of service. He stopped at each fighting position and talked quietly with his soldiers. Remember your training, Kai said. Fire discipline. Conserve ammunition. Watch your sectors. Trust your battle buddy. We're not here to be heroes. We're here to do our jobs. The soldiers nodded. They understood. In orbit above the planet, observer Kix watched the human preparations. Kix was an insectoid from a species that valued efficiency. What Kix saw disturbed them. The humans weren't preparing for battle. They were preparing for something bigger, something the galaxy hadn't seen in thousands of years. Kix began writing a report but stopped. Words felt inadequate. Tomorrow would show what humans truly were. Tomorrow the galaxy would learn. The attack came at dawn, just as Hana had predicted. 50,000 Kryn warriors charged across the open ground toward human positions. They roared their battle cries. Their weapons gleamed in the morning sun. They were magnificent and terrifying. Sergeant Kai Lee watched them come through his rangefinder. His platoon was positioned on a small hill with good sight lines. 30 soldiers in fighting positions, weapons ready, all waiting for the order. Steady, Kai said over the radio. Wait for it. The Kryn warriors ran in loose groups. Some were faster than others. Some stopped to shout challenges at the sky. There was no formation, no coordination, just raw courage and aggression. Artillery fire mission, Kai heard Captain Tay say over the command net. Grid reference Delta 73. Adjust fire. The first artillery shells landed 200 meters in front of the charging Kryn. The explosions were huge. Dirt and rocks flew into the air. The Kryn warriors stopped, confused. They looked at each other. Some shouted angrily at the humans. Others kept charging. Adjust fire, add 100 meters, Tay said, his voice calm and professional. The next shells landed in the middle of the Kryn formation. Warriors disappeared in the explosions. Others were thrown to the ground. The charge broke apart. Groups of warriors scattered, looking for cover. All units, weapons free. Admiral Wu's voice came over the radio. Engage at will. Kai's platoon opened fire. The sound was deafening. Machine guns sent streams of bullets downrange. Rifles fired in controlled bursts. Every soldier aimed carefully and squeezed their triggers smoothly, just like training. The Kryn warriors who had found cover began returning fire. Their weapons were good, nearly as good as human weapons, but they fired wildly, shooting at anything that moved. They wasted ammunition. They didn't aim. Conserve your ammo, Kai reminded his soldiers. Pick your targets. Controlled bursts. The battle lasted 20 minutes. Then the Kryn warriors pulled back, dragging their wounded. They had lost over 500 warriors. Human casualties were 0. In the Kryn command center, Overlord Thex was furious. What were those explosions? He demanded. What weapons are these? His advisors had no good answers. Artillery, Overlord. They fire projectiles from long distance. Our scouts saw the guns but didn't understand their purpose. Then we'll avoid them, Thex said. We'll attack from multiple directions. We'll use the forests for cover. We'll fight close where their coward weapons can't help them. The second attack came 2 hours later. This time, the Kryn split into 3 groups and attacked from different angles. They moved through the tree line, using cover like they had been trained. Major Jin Park commanded the Marine drop teams. When the Kryn entered the forest, Jin was waiting with 300 Marines. They had deployed during the night and hidden in carefully prepared positions. Let them get close, Jin whispered over the radio. Wait until they're in the kill zone. The Kryn warriors moved through the trees confidently. They thought they were being clever. They thought the humans wouldn't see them coming. Jin waited until the enemy was 50 meters away. Now, he said, the forest erupted with gunfire. The Marines had positioned themselves in a U-shape, catching the Kryn in a crossfire. The enemy warriors tried to fight back, but they couldn't see where the shots were coming from. The Marines used the trees and shadows perfectly. Withdraw, Jin ordered after 3 minutes. Section by section covering fire, the Marines pulled back in perfect order. One section provided covering fire while another section moved. Then they switched. The Kryn tried to pursue, but every time they advanced, they were met with more gunfire. Jin called for air support. 30 seconds later, Commander Jade Cho's fighters screamed overhead. They didn't drop bombs. Instead, they fired precision missiles at pre-planned targets. Missiles hit Kryn command vehicles. They destroyed ammunition supplies. They cut communication lines. Returning to base, Jay reported. All targets destroyed. 0 friendly casualties. The Kryn second attack failed. They lost 800 more warriors. Human losses were 12 wounded, none killed. Observer Kix watched everything from orbit. The insectoid's report grew longer with each passing hour. Kix wrote about how humans used terrain, how they coordinated between different types of forces, how their artillery could hit targets they couldn't even see, how their aircraft worked together with ground troops. But what shocked Kix most was the logistics. Colonel Sora Min's supply teams moved constantly. They delivered ammunition before units even ran low. They rotated soldiers in and out of combat positions so everyone stayed fresh. They had food delivered to fighting positions. They had repair teams fixing equipment within minutes of it breaking. They planned for everything, Kix wrote. This is not a battle. This is an operation. On the 3rd day, Captain Rena O led a special forces team deep into Kryn territory. Her team was 6 soldiers, all experts in reconnaissance. They moved silently through enemy areas, watching and reporting. Kryn logistics are falling apart, Rena reported back to headquarters. They're running low on ammunition. Their warriors are eating half rations. Their medical system can't handle all the wounded. And their commanders are arguing with each other. Can you sabotage their supplies? Admiral Wu asked. Negative, Rena said. Not necessary. They're doing it to themselves. They didn't bring enough supply vehicles. They didn't organize their logistics. They just loaded everything onto trucks and hoped it would work out. Hana listened to the reports and shook her head. They came here expecting a 1-day battle. Maybe 2 days. They didn't plan for a campaign. Exactly, Admiral Wu said. We planned for 6 months. They planned for 6 hours. General Sung Ho was the overall ground commander. He sat in the command center with Tai, Hana, and the other officers looking at maps and data. Sung had fought in 3 wars before this. He was old and patient and very, very smart. The Kryn are brave, Sung said, but bravery isn't enough. They don't have a plan. They attack where they want to attack, not where they should attack. They don't think about logistics or communications or combined operations. They just fight. Should we press our advantage? Tay asked. Not yet, Sung said. Let them come to us. Every attack costs them more than it costs us. Every day weakens them more. We're not in a hurry. The fighting continued for another week. The Kryn tried different tactics. They tried night attacks, but humans had night vision equipment. They tried spreading out, but human drones tracked them. They tried massing their forces, but human artillery broke them up. Kai's platoon rotated out of the front line on day 5. His soldiers were tired but confident. They had held every position they were assigned to hold. They had followed every order. They had done their jobs. Good work, Kai told his soldiers. Get some rest. Clean your weapons. We'll be back on the line in 2 days. The soldiers nodded. This was normal for them. Combat was their profession. They didn't get excited. They didn't celebrate. They just did their jobs and rested when they could. In the rest area, young Private Minho asked Kai a question. Sergeant, why do the Kryn keep attacking the same way? Don't they learn? Kai thought about it. They're not trained like us. They're warriors, not soldiers. Warriors fight for honor and glory. Soldiers fight to win. Warriors think about individual combat. Soldiers think about the mission. They're brave, but they don't understand how modern war works. Will they surrender? Minho asked. Eventually, Kai said. When they realize they can't win. When their leaders understand what they're facing. But Overlord Thex was not ready to surrender. He was angry and embarrassed. His empire had called humans weak, and now the humans were winning easily. More ships began arriving from the Kryn homeworld. More warriors. More supplies. Admiral Wu watched the enemy reinforcements arrive and nodded slowly. They're escalating. They think more warriors will make a difference. Will it? Nari asked. No, Wu said. Because we're not fighting a battle of numbers. We're fighting a battle of systems, of organization, of doctrine. We can handle twice their numbers with the forces we have. If they bring more, we'll request more forces from Earth. Nari looked worried. Admiral, maybe we should open negotiations. Offer them a way to surrender with honor. I tried, Wu said. Overlord Thex called me a coward. He says Kryn warriors never surrender. He says they'll fight until every human is dead. Then he doesn't understand, Nari said quietly. He thinks we're at our limit. He thinks if he just pushes harder, we'll break. He's about to learn, Admiral Wu said, that this is just the beginning. By the end of the second week, the Kryn had 70,000 warriors on the planet. The humans still had 50,000 soldiers. But the difference in casualties told the real story. The Kryn had lost over 12,000 warriors killed or too wounded to fight. The humans had lost 230 soldiers killed, 800 wounded. General Sung Ho studied his maps in the command center. He had been quiet for 3 days, thinking and planning. Now he called his senior officers together. We're going to change tactics, Sung said. We've been defensive. Now we go offensive. Not to kill more enemy warriors, to destroy their ability to fight. Captain Tay leaned forward. What's the target? Everything, Sung said. He pointed at the map. Their supply depot here, their command center here, their landing zones here and here. We're not going to fight their warriors. We're going to fight their logistics, their command, and their reinforcement capability. Hana pulled up intelligence reports. Sir, attacking all these targets at once will require perfect coordination. Multiple strike teams, air support, artillery, and electronic warfare all working together. Exactly, Sung said. This is what we call operational art. It's not about one battle. It's about one campaign with multiple operations all supporting each other. Colonel Sora Min spoke up. General, if we commit to this offensive, I'll need to shift supply priorities. More fuel for vehicles and aircraft. More ammunition for sustained operations. Less food and medical supplies in forward positions. Do it, Sung said. We're not planning a long defensive stand anymore. We're planning a fast, decisive offensive. 3 days of intense operations, then we consolidate. The offensive began at midnight on day 15. Captain Rena O's Special Forces team led the way. They had spent 11 days behind enemy lines, hiding and watching. Now they had a mission. Command center is 200 meters ahead, Rena whispered to her team. 4 guards outside. Unknown number inside. We take it quietly, hold it long enough to destroy their communication equipment, then withdraw. The 6-person team moved like ghosts. They neutralized the guards without making a sound. They entered the command center and found 20 Kryn officers arguing over maps. The Special Forces team had surprise and training on their side. The fight was over in seconds. Plant the charges, Rena ordered. 30-second timer. We need to be clear before it blows. The team destroyed computer systems, communication arrays, and paper maps. When they withdrew, the explosion lit up the night sky. The Kryn command structure was blind and deaf. At the same time, Commander J. Cho led a squadron of 12 fighters on a strike mission. Their targets were the Kryn supply depots. Jay's pilots had trained for years to hit targets at night with precision. "Weapons free," Jay said. "Remember, we hit the supplies, not the warriors. Clean strikes only." The missiles flew true. Fuel depots erupted in massive fireballs. Ammunition storage exploded in chains of smaller blasts. Food warehouses burned. The Kryn supply system collapsed in 15 minutes. On the ground, Major Jin Park's Marines attacked the Kryn landing zones. These were the areas where enemy reinforcements arrived from orbit. Jin's orders were clear. Make the landing zones unusable. "Demo teams, place your charges," Jin commanded. "Artillery teams, target the open areas. Air defense, take out their landing beacons." The Marines worked efficiently. They destroyed landing pads. They cratered the flat ground with artillery. They knocked out the guidance systems that helped Kryn ships land safely. Future reinforcements would have to land far away and walk, adding days to their deployment time. While all this happened, Sergeant Kai Lee's platoon conducted a diversionary attack on a Kryn forward position. They made a lot of noise, fired a lot of ammunition, and kept thousands of enemy warriors busy. The Kryn thought this was the main attack. They didn't realize it was just a distraction. "Keep them engaged," Kai told his soldiers. "But don't take risks. Fire and move. Use cover. Make them think we're a much bigger force." The platoon held the Kryn attention for 4 hours. By the time the enemy realized this was a diversion, the real attacks were already over. Kai withdrew his platoon without losing a single soldier. When morning came, the Kryn forces were in chaos. They had no central command. They had no supplies. They couldn't get reinforcements easily. Warriors stood around confused, waiting for orders that never came. Overlord Thex survived the command center attack because he wasn't there. He had been visiting forward troops. Now he stood in the ruins of his supply depot and stared at the destruction. "How?" Thex asked. "How did they do all this at once? How did they coordinate so many different attacks?" His surviving advisors had no answers. They didn't understand what they were facing. In their military history, wars were simple. You gathered your warriors. You attacked the enemy warriors. The strongest side won. There was honor in it. There was clarity. But the humans fought differently. They didn't just attack warriors. They attacked systems. They destroyed the ability to fight, not just the fighters themselves. It was terrifying and incomprehensible. Observer Kix had watched the night's operations with growing horror. The insectoid immediately sent a report to the Galactic Union Security Committee. The humans conducted simultaneous operations across an area of 500 square kilometers, Kix wrote. They coordinated ground forces, air forces, artillery, and special operations teams in perfect synchronization. They destroyed command, logistics, and reinforcement capabilities in a single night. This is not advanced tactics. This is advanced strategy. This is operational art at a level the galaxy has not seen in millennia. The Galactic Union officials who read the report didn't believe it at first. How could one species be so advanced in warfare? How could they think of so many things at once? Counselor Vex, who headed the security committee, called for all available data on the human military. What Vex found was disturbing. Earth had military academies that taught nothing but war. Humans studied conflicts from their entire history. They analyzed what worked and what didn't. They developed doctrines and tested them in exercises. They had professional soldiers who trained for years before seeing combat. They have made war into a science, Vex reported to the council. They don't rely on individual bravery or superior technology. They rely on organization, doctrine, and institutional knowledge. Every human soldier knows their role. Every unit knows how to work with other units. They have created a system for warfare. Back on the planet, General Sung Ho called another meeting of his officers. The offensive had been a complete success. The Kryn were crippled. Now we offer terms, Sung said. Not to individual warriors. To their government. We contact the Kryn homeworld directly. We tell them they have lost. We give them a chance to surrender with dignity. Ambassador Nari composed the message carefully. To the Kryn Imperial Council, she wrote, your forces on designation 773 are defeated. Not because your warriors lack courage. Not because you lack honor. But because modern warfare requires more than courage and honor. It requires organization, logistics, combined operations, and strategic thinking. We did not come here to humiliate you. We came here to defend our rights. Your warriors fought bravely, but they were not prepared for the type of war we wage. We offer you peace. Withdraw your forces. Recognize human rights to our trade routes. End this conflict before more die. This is not dishonorable. This is wisdom. The message was sent. The Galactic Union observers watched to see what would happen. On the ground, Kai's platoon was finally rotated to a rest area. The soldiers were exhausted from 2 weeks of combat. They cleaned their weapons, ate hot food, and slept. "Sergeant," young Private Minho asked, "do you think they'll surrender now?" Kai shook his head. "I don't know. Pride is a powerful thing. Overlord Thex has to admit he was wrong. That's hard for anyone, especially a warrior leader." "What happens if they don't surrender?" Minho asked. "Then we keep fighting," Kai said simply. "That's our job. We fight until the mission is complete. It doesn't matter if it takes days or months. We have the training, the supplies, and the will to see it through." Lieutenant Hana sat with Captain Tay in the command center, monitoring Kryn communications. The enemy transmissions were frantic and disorganized. "They're arguing among themselves," Hana said. "Some want to surrender. Others want to keep fighting. Overlord Thex is demanding more reinforcements from the homeworld. Will they send more?" Tay asked. "Unknown," Hana said. "But look at this." She pulled up long-range sensor data. 5 more Kryn transport ships are en route. "They'll arrive in 3 days," Tay sighed. "They're not ready to give up. They think they can still win with more numbers." Admiral Wu joined them. "Then we'll show them what full-scale human military operations look like. I'm requesting additional forces from Earth, 2 more divisions plus naval support. If the Kryn want to escalate, we'll accommodate them." Nari looked worried. "Admiral, are you sure? This was supposed to be a limited engagement." "It was," Wu said, "until they refused to accept reality. The longer this goes on, the more it will cost both sides. But if they insist on learning the hard way, then that's what will happen." General Sung looked at the strategic map. "The Kryn still think this is about bravery and numbers. They don't understand that we're fighting a different kind of war entirely." The Kryn Imperial Council received Ambassador Nari's peace offer and rejected it. Overlord Thex argued passionately before his government. He said that accepting defeat from primitives would destroy the Empire's reputation. He said that more warriors and better tactics would turn the tide. He said that Kryn honor demanded victory. The Council agreed to send more forces, but they also sent a message to the Galactic Union. "We will fight until the humans surrender or are destroyed. This is a matter of honor." When Observer Kix read this message, the insectoid felt something like fear. Kix immediately requested an audience with Admiral Wu. "Admiral," Kix said through a translator, "my species values efficiency and survival above honor." "May I speak plainly?" "Please do," Wu said. "The Kryn do not understand what they face. They think you are at your limits. They think 50,000 soldiers is your entire military. Are they correct?" Admiral Wu was quiet for a moment. Then he pulled up a data file and showed it to Kix. The insectoid's compound eyes widened. "This is 1 division," Wu said, pointing at the current force deployment. "Earth has 50 active divisions, plus 200 reserve divisions that can be mobilized within months. If fully mobilized, we can field 400 million soldiers within 6 months." Kix's translator made a sound that might have been a gasp. 400 million? That's just ground forces, Wu continued. We have naval fleets, orbital defense platforms, strategic missile forces, cyber warfare divisions, and specialized units I can't discuss. The forces here represent approximately 0.01% of Earth's total military capacity. "Why haven't you told the Kryn this?" Kix asked. "We did," Wu said quietly. "Ambassador Nari included that information in our peace offer." They didn't believe it. They thought it was a bluff. Kix was silent for a long time. Then the insectoid asked another question. "Admiral, how long has humanity been at war?" "Continuously?" "About 10,000 years, Wu said. "We've had brief periods of global peace, but warfare has been constant somewhere on Earth for all of recorded history. We've had professional standing armies for 500 years. We've been studying warfare scientifically for longer than that." "And your current soldiers? How long do they train?" "Basic training is 4 months. Advanced training for their specialty is another 3 to 8 months. Sergeants like Kai have 12 years of experience. Officers like Captain Tay have 15 years. We don't send people into combat until they're ready." Kix understood now why the humans were so effective. It wasn't technology. It wasn't individual strength. It was 10,000 years of continuous warfare that had created institutional knowledge. The humans had learned from every conflict, refined their methods, and built systems that worked. The Kryn have been at peace for 200 years, Kik said. Their last war was against a species that fought with similar tactics. They have never faced an enemy like you. I know, Wu said. That's why we tried to offer peace. We don't want to destroy them. But they're not giving us a choice. 3 days later, the Kryn reinforcements arrived. 20,000 more warriors landed on the planet. At the same time, human reinforcements arrived. 2 more divisions, 30,000 additional soldiers, plus naval support vessels. But the humans brought something else. Something that made even their own soldiers nervous. Lieutenant Mina Beck commanded a psychological operations unit. Her job was to break enemy morale without firing a shot. She set up transmitters that broadcast messages directly to Kryn warriors. Soldiers of the Kryn Empire, Mina's broadcast said in the Kryn language. You are brave. You are honorable. But your leaders have lied to you. They told you humans are weak. They told you this would be an easy victory. How many of your friends have died? How many are wounded? Your leaders are safe in orbit while you die on the ground. Is this honor? Is this glory? The broadcast continued for days. They showed casualty numbers. They showed images of destroyed Kryn supply depots. They explained how human military doctrine worked. They offered safe surrender to any warriors who wanted to stop fighting. At first, the Kryn warriors ignored the broadcasts. But as more days passed and more warriors died, some began to listen. Doubt spread through the enemy ranks. Overlord Thex tried to counter the broadcast with his own messages. The humans use coward tactics. They fight without honor. They hide behind machines and long-range weapons. True warriors face their enemies directly, but his words rang hollow. His warriors had faced human soldiers directly many times. Every time the humans had won. The Kryn were starting to question what honor meant when it only led to death. Meanwhile, human forces demonstrated capabilities they had been holding back. Commander J-Cho's fighter squadrons conducted electronic warfare missions. They jammed Kryn communications. They hacked into Kryn computer systems. They made the enemy's technology work against them. We've penetrated their military network, Lieutenant Hanna reported. We can see their troop movements in real time. We can read their orders before their soldiers receive them. We know their plans before they execute them. Captain Rena O's Special Forces teams went deeper into enemy territory. They didn't attack. They observed and reported. One team stayed in position for 18 days, eating minimal rations and drinking recycled water, just watching a Kryn command post. They're exhausted, Rena reported. Their officers are arguing constantly. Warriors are deserting in small groups. Their supply situation is critical. They're down to 1 meal per day. Medical supplies are almost gone. General Sung studied all the intelligence and made a decision. We're going to demonstrate our full capabilities, not to kill more enemies, to show them that continuing this fight is impossible. What followed was a carefully orchestrated display of military power. Human orbital cruisers fired precision strikes at unpopulated areas. The strikes carved perfect circles in the ground, each exactly 10 meters in diameter. No Kryn were hurt, but the message was clear. Humans could hit any target they wanted, any time they wanted. Artillery units fired demonstration barrages at maximum range. Shells landed in empty valleys 50 kilometers from Kryn positions. The sound alone was terrifying. Fighter squadrons performed mock attacks on Kryn formations. They flew so low and so fast that the sonic booms knocked warriors off their feet. But they didn't fire a single weapon. This is a message, General Sung explained to his officers. We're showing them that we've been restrained. We could have done this from day one. We chose not to because we don't want unnecessary casualties. The Galactic Union observers watched in horror. Counselor Vex immediately convened an emergency session of the Security Committee. The humans have been fighting a limited war, Vex reported. They have capabilities they haven't used, weapons they haven't fired, forces they haven't deployed. They could have ended this conflict in days. They chose to give the Kryn a chance to surrender with honor. Why? One council member asked. Why show restraint? Because, Vex said, they have rules. They have ethics. They have laws about warfare. They don't kill for pleasure. They kill to achieve objectives. And their objective was to defend their rights, not to destroy the Kryn Empire. Back on the planet, Dr. Han Yule, a military historian embedded with the forces, was writing a comprehensive analysis. Han had studied Earth's military history for 30 years. Now he was seeing that history repeat itself. The Kryn made a classic mistake, Han wrote. They confused tactical courage with strategic wisdom. They thought that because their warriors were brave, they would win. But warfare isn't about individual bravery. It's about systems, logistics, doctrine, and combined operations. The Kryn brought warriors to a professional fight. On day 40, Marshal Taewon arrived from Earth. Taewon was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the highest military officer in the Earth Defense Force. His arrival signaled that Earth was taking this conflict seriously at the highest levels. Marshal Taewon toured the battlefield. He visited wounded soldiers in field hospitals. He ate with frontline troops. He reviewed the tactical decisions that had been made. Then he called a meeting with Admiral Wu and General Sung. "You've done well," Taewon said. "Minimal casualties. Clear objectives. Professional conduct. But this needs to end. The Kryn aren't going to surrender while they still have warriors standing. We need to give them one final demonstration." "What do you suggest?" Admiral Wu asked. "Complete encirclement," Taewon said. "Cut them off entirely. No supplies. No reinforcements. No communications with their homeworld. Then we wait. 48 hours. If they don't surrender, we show them what a real assault looks like." The encirclement took 12 hours. Human forces moved in a coordinated operation that used every unit simultaneously. Artillery created barriers of fire. Infantry established blocking positions. Aircraft patrolled the skies. Naval vessels in orbit cut off any escape. The Kryn found themselves trapped in an area of 50 square kilometers. They had food for 3 days. Ammunition for one major battle. No hope of reinforcement. Overlord Thex stood in the center of his trapped force and finally understood. The humans had been holding back. Everything his warriors had faced so far was just a fraction of human capability. He thought about the orbital strikes, the artillery demonstrations, the aircraft that could have bombed his positions into dust but didn't. The surrender message came 36 hours after the encirclement began. It wasn't from Overlord Thex. It was from the Kryn Imperial Council directly. "We surrender," the message said simply. "All Kryn forces will lay down their arms. We request terms." Marshal Taewon, Admiral Wu, and Ambassador Nari met with Kryn officials on neutral ground. The Kryn delegates looked exhausted and defeated. Overlord Thex was not among them. He had been recalled to the homeworld in disgrace. "These are our terms," Nari said. She had written them carefully to be firm but not cruel. First, immediate cessation of hostilities. Second, recognition of human rights to independent trade routes. Third, exchange of prisoners and care for wounded. Fourth, the Kryn Empire will pay reparations for the cost of this conflict. Fifth, both sides will establish diplomatic relations and a treaty of non-aggression. The Kryn delegates read the terms in silence. One of them, an older warrior named Vextor, spoke. "These terms are fair, more than fair. We expected you to demand our worlds, to take our resources, to humiliate us. We're not interested in conquest," Nari said. "We never were. We just wanted to be treated as equals in the galaxy. Your empire challenged us. We responded. Now let's move forward." Vextor looked at Marshal Taewon. "May I ask a question, Marshal?" "Of course. This force you sent. 50,000 soldiers. Is this truly all you have?" Taewon shook his head. "No. This is what we call a division. Earth has 50 active divisions like this, plus reserves, plus naval forces, plus specialized units. This was a limited deployment." The Kryn delegates were quiet. Finally, Vextor spoke again. "We thought you were primitives. We were wrong. We didn't just underestimate your numbers. We underestimated everything about you. You underestimated our professionalism," Admiral Wu said. "You thought warfare was about individual courage. It's not. It's about training, organization, logistics, and doctrine. Your warriors are brave, but bravery alone doesn't win modern wars." The peace treaty was signed 3 days later. Human forces began withdrawing immediately. The Kryn collected their wounded and dead. The fighting was over. But in the Galactic Union, the real impact was just beginning. The Security Committee called an emergency session. All 47 member species sent representatives. Counselor Vex presented a comprehensive report on the conflict. "The humans won with minimal casualties," Vex said. "Final numbers: 847 humans killed, 2,300 wounded. Kryn casualties: 43,000 killed, 89,000 wounded. The remaining Kryn forces were combat ineffective." The council chamber erupted in shocked conversation. The casualty ratio was nearly unbelievable. How? Demanded a representative from the Torvin Collective. How is such a victory possible? Are humans that much stronger? Is their technology that advanced? Neither, Vex said. Their technology is only slightly better than the Kryn. Their soldiers are not physically superior. What makes them effective is their system, their doctrine, their professionalism. Vex pulled up detailed analysis on the viewing screens. Humans have been studying warfare for 10,000 years. They have military academies. They have professional soldiers who train for years. They have doctrine that coordinates infantry, armor, artillery, aircraft, and orbital forces. They plan for logistics. They plan for casualties. They plan for extended campaigns. They don't fight battles. They fight wars. Supreme Chancellor Kor stood up. Kor was a tall, gray-skinned being from an ancient species. Are humans a threat to the Union? Observer Kix, who had watched the entire conflict, was invited to speak. Humans have the capability to be a threat, Kix said. But I don't believe they want to be. They followed their own rules of engagement throughout the conflict. They showed restraint. They offered peace multiple times. They didn't kill unnecessarily. They have ethics and laws about warfare. But what if they decide to attack? Another council member asked. Then the Union will lose, Kix said bluntly. Humans can mobilize 400 million soldiers. They have orbital weapons. They have strategic planning. They have 10,000 years of military knowledge. If they wanted to conquer the galaxy, they could probably do it. The council chamber fell silent. Finally, Supreme Chancellor Kor spoke. Then we have two choices. Quarantine humanity and hope they stay in their space, or accept them as equals and ally with them. I recommend the second option, Kix said, because if we treat them as enemies, they might become enemies. But if we treat them as friends, we gain the most effective military force the galaxy has ever seen. The vote took 3 days. In the end, the council voted to offer humans full membership in the Galactic Union. But there were conditions. Human military officers would be invited to teach Union forces modern military doctrine. Humans would help establish a professional Union military to defend against external threats. Ambassador Nari accepted the offer on behalf of Earth. We're honored, she said. We never wanted to be conquerors. We just wanted respect. You've given us that. In return, we'll help defend the Union. We'll share our knowledge. We'll be partners, not rulers. The integration began immediately. Captain Tay was assigned to a Union military academy as an instructor. He taught combined arms doctrine to officers from a dozen species. Sergeant Kai was assigned to train Union infantry. He started with the basics. First rule, Kai told a class of alien soldiers. Stay in formation. Second rule, stay in communication. Third rule, your battle buddy is more important than personal glory. The alien soldiers struggled at first. They were used to fighting as individuals seeking honor in single combat. Kai was patient. War isn't about you, he explained. It's about the mission. It's about your team. You win by working together, not by being a hero. Lieutenant Hana helped establish Union intelligence networks. She taught them how to analyze information, predict enemy movements, and coordinate responses. Colonel Sora gave lectures on military logistics. Amateurs study tactics, Sora said. Professionals study logistics. You can have the bravest warriors in the galaxy, but if they don't have ammunition, food, and medical supplies, they'll lose. The changes rippled through the Galactic Union. For 12,000 years, warfare had been ritualized and limited. Now species were learning what professional military forces looked like, what organization could achieve, what doctrine could accomplish. Some species were uncomfortable with the changes. War had been almost ceremonial before. Now it was becoming serious and scientific. But most understood the necessity. The galaxy was large, and there were threats beyond the Union's borders. Having a real military made sense. 6 months after the conflict ended, Observer Kix published a final report. It became required reading in every Union military academy. Humans didn't win because they were stronger or smarter, Kix wrote. They won because they were professional. They treated warfare as a science, not a sport. They planned for every contingency. They coordinated multiple types of forces seamlessly. They had institutional knowledge passed down through generations of soldiers. They had ethics that prevented unnecessary cruelty while allowing necessary force. This is what a professional army looks like. This is what the galaxy must learn. On Earth, Marshal Taewan read the report and smiled. Humanity had joined the galactic community not as primitives or conquerors, but as professionals. They had shown what disciplined, organized, ethical military force could accomplish. In a quiet bar on Earth, Sergeant Kai Lee sat with Private Minho and other soldiers from his platoon. They had come home after the deployment. Minho had earned promotion to specialist. He asked Kai a question. "Sergeant, do you think we'll fight again?" Kai sipped his drink and thought about it. Maybe, probably, but hopefully not soon. And hopefully not against the Union. We made friends up there. We showed them what professionals look like. With luck, that knowledge will prevent wars, not start them. "And if there is another war?" Minho asked. Kai looked at his soldiers, these young men and women who had trained so hard and fought so well. "Then we do our jobs. We fight professionally. We follow our doctrine. We take care of each other. We win, that's what we do. That's who we are." Across the galaxy, species were learning what humanity had known for millennia. War wasn't about glory or honor or individual combat. War was about organization, logistics, doctrine, and professionalism. It was about training and coordination. It was about institutions and knowledge passed down through generations. That moment when the Galactic Union truly understood what a human professional army was, changed the galaxy forever. Not through conquest, not through fear, but through respect earned in the hardest way possible. The humans had shown the galaxy how to fight. Now they would teach the galaxy how to defend itself. Together,